Have you been shadow banned by the liberal media? Free market got you down? Do you get ratioed on every Twitter post because of your shit takes on literally everything? Then producer Dave and HK are probably watching your 3-hour dissertation on how a tomato cannot possibly be a fruit because gender and critical race theory can be cured with ivermectin. The Intellectual Dollar Tree, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Please leave it a 1-star review on iTunes. Check out the rest of our schedule at echoplexmedia.com.
When they actually spend their time listening to this show, what does it mean? It means we're winning.
Didn't make it to the vault in a pool of blood from the police assault. No revolution, instead your body beaten blue and red in a bright white light on the horizon instead. Then the napalm drops and the flames won't stop. Dead teachers dead, preachers dead, soldiers dead, cops. The napalm drops and the flames won't stop. Dead teachers dead, preachers dead, soldiers dead, cops. What you gonna do when no one comes for you? You better make a plan for the wasteland. So what's your plan for the wasteland? No mutants or martyrs, just malnourished kids. Tell them stories about all the fun stuff we did. No gas for the car and no shells for the gun. So sit back, relax, let the cannibals come. You wish they were zombies, but there's breath in their lungs. Breath in their lungs. What you gonna do when no one comes for you? Oh, what you gonna do when the hungry humans come for you? You better make a plan for the wasteland. So what's your plan for the wasteland? What's your plan for the wasteland? So what's your plan for the wasteland? Would you rather be starving? I would rather be gone. I would rather be dust when the bombs come along. So I fight with the dying when you can rest and be dead. We all need survival like a hole in the head. Pray you're safe and you're sound, not sleep in the ground. Pray their first fucking target is this quaint little town. When the gas came you choked, when the fun came you drowned. What you gonna do when no one comes for you? Oh, what you gonna do when the consequences come for you? You better make a plan for the wasteland. So what's your plan for the wasteland? Ain't got no plan for the wasteland. Thinking Uncle Sam for the wasteland. You're a bitch of pen for the wasteland. You got no plan for the wasteland. So what you gonna do when no one comes for you? You better make a plan for the wasteland. You better make a plan for the wasteland.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Plex. We do the show live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific right here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/EchoPlex Media. Please support this project. Just go to echoplexmedia.com, click the support tab. You can donate, you can buy merch, whatever. Quick announcement, on Operation Catterday this week, we're going to, Patty K and the Ruffies manager Chase will be here, possibly other members of the band, and we're going to be doing some giveaways of the Everywhere's an Island album. That album doesn't come out till April 1st. You'll be able to get it about a week before it comes out. You'll also, if you win the digital copy, you will get the 24-bit Wave Masters, which will only be available here. And we might give out a couple custom Ruffy shirts with Echoplex Media logos on them with the cover art from the album, if we can get that together in time. So that's going to be super cool. We're not really trying to announce it too much to the local music scene because we're doing it for the people here, actually. The people who that album has been the soundtrack or part of the soundtrack of viewing experience for over a year that we've had the Wave Masters. They had some problems just with getting stuff done, as a punk rock band might. And so big ups to the Ruffies for giving us the Wave Masters as soon as they were done. Been good friends of ours, and we'd like to make sure that some of you out there are the first ones to have that album, because I mean, why wouldn't you want to be the first one to have that album? We're doing the giveaways a couple different ways. We're going to do a couple via the bot, and then we're going to do some kind of scavenger hunty things. They'll be fun. The scavenger hunts will be on Facebook, Twitter, and Mastodon, as well as in our Discord server. So it'll give people an opportunity to not just by the luck of the draw, but maybe to use your skills as an internet researcher, sleuth, to go ahead and get the albums. We may even have some physical copies to send out. And on the good side of this too, if you don't win, you'll be able to buy the album in our shop before it comes out. But you'll pay a little bit more than you would at like Bandcamp when it comes out on Bandcamp. But the idea there is so that you're supporting both this project and the Ruffies. So it'll be a little bit more. But again, the digital will include the Wave Masters as well as the MP3s. The Wave Masters will only be available here. You'll be able to buy, if the physical albums are done, we'll be able to send out CDs. We just don't know if they're going to be ready by the 25th yet. If they're not ready by the 25th, we may let you pre-order them here. And again, we're going to charge more, but it's because the split's going to be better, and the Ruffies are going to get more money, and we'll take a couple bucks off the top too for providing it. But most of the money will go to the Ruffies. And so, you know, if you want to support Patty K's project and whatever, it's not going to be like $50 for the album, but it'll be, 20. And we have a meeting tomorrow. We're going to work it all out, but it should be great. And I figure people that listen to the podcast hear the Ruffies all the time. Don't Hate the Cops is a Ruffies song if you're a regular listener to the downloadable podcast. Maybe you haven't heard any of the new Ruffies stuff if you're not listening live. Speaking of listening live in the podcast, this week is one of those weeks where we're doing a long show for the podcast listeners. The first 2 hours of the show is just going to go straight out onto the pod, because I didn't have time to put an upfront hour together. And I do like to every once in a while sort of give the podcast listeners a bit of a taste of what the live show's like. So also podcast listeners, you might not be getting the whole thing if you're not watching the video. The video for this is available on Odyssey as well as YouTube, though YouTube has a tendency to want to take my stuff down because we cover a lot of conspiracy stuff and they're idiots. And they can't tell like that we're just shilling for the status quo here, baby, most of the time. So without any further ado, we're going to get to our stories for the week. I'm not going to read them off because I'm just going to start going through them right now. So Trump's defense attorney doesn't seem like he knows what the fuck he's doing. Here's him on Ari Melber's show. I don't know if we're going to watch the whole thing. It's a little bit long, and MSNBC tends to be a little litigious, but we'll watch some of it.
Now, live on the beat is Trump defense lawyer Joe Tacopina. Thank you for being here and taking the questions.
Thanks, Ari.
Let's start looking at this case. You have these payments. You don't deny that Trump made this payment.
No, payments were made, obviously.
Right. Is Stormy Daniels...
I call them extortionate payments, of course.
We'll get into it, right?
Yeah.
So the payments are made. Is Stormy Daniels a lawyer?
Is Stormy Daniels a lawyer?
Yeah.
A lawyer?
Yeah, is Stormy Daniels a lawyer?
I thought you asked...
You should ask this guy if he's a lawyer. Fuck it. I'd start with the very base. Like,
I don't think she's a lawyer. I don't think a lawyer was a lawyer either, but Stormy Daniels is not a lawyer.
So she's not a lawyer. And these payments were made. And they were, according to federal filings, classified on the Trump side as legal services. That was false, wasn't it?
The payments were made to a lawyer, not to Stormy Daniels. The payments were made to Donald Trump's lawyer, which would be considered legal fees. Michael Cohen, regardless of what we all know about him now, and hindsight is 2020, is a fraud.
Is this guy going on Ari Melber's show to incriminate his client?
in the Trump world and outside the Trump world with the medallions and all that stuff. Was his
Trump
lawyer
already
at the
going
time
for an
and
ineffective
advised him
assistance of
that this
counsel
was the
defense?
proper way to do this to protect himself and his family from embarrassment. It's as simple as that.
And that money, though, just to be clear on this point, did go to Stormy Daniels, so it wasn't legal
went to
fees, it was a payment.
No, it went to Stormy Daniels first from Cohen. This was how Michael Cohen structured this, by the way, okay? It went to Stormy Daniels from Michael Cohen. He decided he was going to do it this way and asked for the reimbursement of what he billed as legal fees. That is not a crime. It's not a crime, and more importantly...
Well, hold on, because we're doing this with piece by piece.
Well, wait a minute. If Donald Trump knew that the money was going to pay somebody, then I don't know. It's fucking probably a crime that Michael Cohen committed.
I didn't say or ask if it was a crime. I'm just trying to get the pieces in place.
Yeah.
You seem to be putting forward a defense that's the kind we've heard from Trump before, that, well, other people are just doing these things, so he's not in on it.
It's not other people. This is his lawyer who was advising him.
Okay.
A disgraced former mob lawyer is what I'm thinking.
How to
Sure.
structure.
Yeah.
And so let's take a listen. I actually want to jump ahead to something we have. This is a Trump-Cohen recording where you have Trump in the room informed about the nature of some of these payments. Let's listen to this audio recording.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David. I spoke to Alan about it when it comes time for the financing, which will be...
Listen, what financing?
We'll have to pay you. So
I'll pay with cash.
No.
When Donald Trump's talking,
When Donald Trump was like, can we just get to a suitcase of cash?
And is saying yes and pay with cash. That doesn't sound
bag
like
of cash. It means instead of financing the payment over months or years.
Right, but
write a check.
Okay. That doesn't sound like someone who has a lawyer who's gone rogue. It sounds like someone
It's
who
not about a lawyer
is
who's gone
using
rogue.
this lawyer to send the money to Daniels. And the problem potentially for your client in New York is whether this was misclassified, aka illegally written down as something it wasn't, as a payment for legal services.
What would be illegal about it?
Well, I could show you. I know you like to ask
I
questions.
don't know what would be illegal about it.
Here's what he was called in the federal case, individual one. Those were the Cohen charges. And you refer to that to say that that was bad for Michael
Cohen. That was
Cohen.
campaign finance law violations, right?
Right. And here is
something that the federal government chose not to bring against Donald Trump.
Well, as you know, they were not allowed to under DOJ rules in a federal case while he was president.
Oh, and then he was not president, and they still haven't brought cases against Donald Trump.
This is true.
Thank you.
This is true.
Thank you.
Now you asked about whether this would become a crime or not. And again, the authorities will determine that. But if you're making the defense, I'm trying to understand what the defense actually is, because here's how it was put by the feds. Cohen, with the assistance of Corporation One, arranged for the purchase of those stories to suppress them and prevent them from influencing the election. The new reporting is, I want to get the benefit of your response, prosecutors could argue that $130,000 became a donation to Trump's campaign under the theory that the money was silencing Daniels, benefiting his candidacy. So two-part question. Why lie about this and why misidentify the payment if it was legal? And second, your response to that theory of the case.
A donation to his campaign by himself. Okay, that's what it would be. This is very different. Look, John Edwards, remember that case where a third party paid for John Edwards' mistress who was pregnant with his baby and all that stuff. That was a third party. That was a donor. Okay. He was acquitted, and the DOJ dropped all charges on the hung counts on that.
Was he acquitted or did the DOJ drop the charges? Those are actually two different things.
With his own money. And here's the bright line test. And here's where this case falls miserably. And by the way, yes, I'm his lawyer, so you would expect that from me, Ari. But what you have here is legal scholars, former members of the Federal Election Committee have publicly stated there was no crime here, no campaign law violation. Because here's the deal. First of all, there's a crucial distinction between separating campaign funds from personal funds, right? And on personal fund usage, here's the bright line test, and it ends this case. It ends any case regarding Stormy Daniels. If the spending or the fulfillment of a commitment or the expenditure would exist irrespective of the campaign, it's not a campaign law violation. End of story. This would exist irrespective of the campaign.
You're making a potential defense that he would have paid this out regardless.
It's not only would I say that, his lawyer at the time who pled guilty.
This guy's an idiot. He's like outlining what his strategy is going to be on fucking national TV.
To all sorts of lies and frauds, who's now a cooperator, said that under oath. He said that under oath.
Can you point to other payments that Trump made like this outside of a campaign?
During the time of the campaign?
Outside of that campaign year, in his other many years on planet Earth, has he ever made a payment like this?
I have no idea, Ari. I have no idea. But Donald Trump is a litigious individual who gets sued by a lot of people, okay?
No, that's not what litigious means. Litigious means you're the one doing the suing.
Litigious doesn't mean you get sued all the time.
Time things are settled. I've represented hundreds of people in similar situations where they make payments for what's called a nuisance settlement. Look, $125,000 to me is not, I mean, to you it's nothing, but to me it would be important. But to Donald Trump, it's what's called a nuisance settlement, okay? And when you do that, it's to make a problem, an embarrassing problem, go away. It doesn't mean it's real, because he vehemently denies an affair, so it doesn't mean it's real or not. Yeah. It means you're settling something to not have to deal with the aggravation of it.
It sounds like a lot of money to me, and we've never, done that much together. But if you were at the early bird special with me, you'd know I like to keep things as cost effective as possible.
That's why I have that big bank account.
But I'll ask you this. If all of what you say is true,
it is,
then why was Trump hiding it and lying about it at the time? And I'll play that for your response. Mm-hmm. He lied about it. We all know that. Take a look. Take a look.
Let's see.
President, did you know about the $130,000 payment to Stormy Daniels? Then why did Michael Cohen make this if there was no truth or allegation?
Well, you have to ask Michael Cohen. Michael's my attorney, and you'll have to ask Michael.
Ari, that's what you're going to consider a lie. A lie to me is something material under oath in a proceeding.
Well, I didn't say.
Well, no. Wait a minute. No, you can. I can lie to you right now. I'm not under oath. I probably lied to somebody in the last 24 hours, not under oath. That doesn't make it not a lie.
Yeah, but that's not a lie. That's
not a lie?
Here's why it's not a lie.
That's not a lie?
Here's why it's not a lie.
Did you know about this?
Let me answer.
Did you know about this? No, I don't.
No, we don't need that. Here's why it's not a lie.
Yeah, we don't need you to have come with fucking settlement. We don't need you. Please don't come with things printed out.
So
this is unfair. You've shown up prepared.
Violating the confidential settlement. So is it the truth? Of course it's not the truth. Was he supposed to tell the truth? He would be in violation of the agreement if he told the truth. So by him doing that, he was abiding by not only his rights, but Stormy Daniels' rights.
It seems like we're drawing some blood here because you're having a strong reaction. He did lie about it, and in a confidential settlement, you can easily say, no comment, or I'm not getting into it. He says, and the reason why I look at this, he says, no, I didn't know about it. But he did know about it, didn't he?
But here's the thing. I don't know the timing of that video. I really don't. And I'm not trying to play games with you.
April 28th.
Yeah, but I don't know the timing of that video in relation to the timing of the other video where he was speaking to Michael Cohen. What was the date?
Wait a minute. This is his lawyer and he doesn't know the timeline?
Video, do you know?
Yeah. We have the Cohen recording. This was around the 2016 campaign pre-November. So that was 2018 later. The original conversations were in the fall of 2016. Yes, sir.
So obviously he knew about it, but what he decided to do was not violate the confidentiality clause and provision of that agreement, which was the right thing to do. So yeah, he could have said no comment, or he could have said, I don't know anything about it, which is what he did. But that's the right. I would advise my client.
He didn't say, I don't know anything about it. He said no.
A journalist or some young lady on the street.
September 2016 is the exact date.
But whether he's speaking to a journalist or some young lady on the street just shouting out a question, that is not the form for him to go into detailed questions about a confidential settlement agreement.
So let me tell you what I'm hearing, because again, people deserve to know all sides of this as we go into what may be an unprecedented indictment of a former president or not. We don't know. We don't know. It sounds tonight like what you're saying. I appreciate you coming here and taking the questions. Not everyone does that. It sounds like you're saying you have a legal attack on the potential campaign finance violation, and you think you have.
Yeah, somebody in chat has a good point. Like, if you have a history of stiffing people on payments, who's going to take your case other than like a slimeball lawyer that might be doing it to like raise their own profile?
Precedent that helps you, for example, the federal Edwards case, which Jack Smith oversaw and lost.
Correct.
To make the point that you don't believe that is a tight, open and shut finance felony. That's number one. And number two, on the misdemeanor case, which is more legally minor, but is not zero, and you and I can point to individuals who've had trouble with misdemeanors. Sure. It seems that you're saying, well, yeah, he lied. He lied. It wasn't really legal services. Stormy's not a lawyer.
I didn't say that.
What did you say?
I said his lawyer advised him to pay him his legal services.
And that money went to Ms. Daniels.
But the money went to Ms. Daniels before that. He was reimbursing his lawyer. His lawyer sent him an invoice for legal services.
Wait, that's even worse.
So he lied.
It sounds like you're saying, one, not a campaign finance crime, and two, well, the misdemeanor, sure, maybe he lied about it, but you don't want to deal with the misdemeanor.
No.
You're kind of admitting part of the misdemeanor.
No, I am. Ari, please don't put those words in my mouth. I am not admitting. He's not guilty.
But they weren't
of any
legal
crime.
services.
His lawyer classified them as legal services. His lawyer sent him an invoice for legal services. His lawyer told him they would be properly classified as legal services. He relied on his lawyer. But here's the thing. Even if you put in your checkbook, or I'll use me as an example. I put in my checkbook, I bought a car and I wrote, I purchased a horse. Mm-hmm. That's inaccurate. That's a lie, maybe. But there's no crime there. Because this filing.
But this isn't about what was in the memo of the check.
For the purpose of influencing an election. There wasn't something being hidden. There was no obligation to.
This is fucking amazing.
Campaign committee at all.
Well, I suppose the question then becomes, did any company owned by Donald Trump or controlled by him or Donald Trump personally tell the government this was legal services?
I'll tell you why.
That would be false.
Right. The government being the United States government, the answer is absolutely none. Here's the thing.
So can you substantiate that?
3 years. First of all, I don't need to substantiate anything. They need to substantiate a charge, right?
Well, in a criminal court of law, that's true. Sure.
Here we are.
They have the burden.
Here we are.
Well,
no, but you're on a TV show. You're on like a talk show. You're not in a criminal court of law.
He's not charged yet, but I don't need to.
But you sound like someone who's bracing for a charge.
Only because I'm listening to this stuff. I still hold out hope that they're not going to do this, because I think this will be an enormous stain on the legacy of that district attorney. Look, for the last 3 years, they have scoured every record of Donald Trump. They actually, this Pomerantz in his book wrote.
I'll give you one more. I'll get to Pomerantz.
He wrote in his book.
I will get to that.
Okay.
So we're going to close this out on the facts, as I said, and then we'll turn to what I think you've raised, which are fair questions that the DA should face. Before we turn to that, your colleague went in and made a case to the DA. Can you tell us anything about that? A case against indictment.
First of all, the point person on this case has been Susan Nicholas.
Yep.
Who's one of the top lawyers in the city. I worked with Susan. We've known each other for many, many years. So she's been interacting with them. Number one. Number two, this has not been a tell us what you think and we'll tell you what we think sort of relationship. Mm-hmm. Okay? We are shocked that this has gotten this far, especially after Pomerantz's grand jury secrecy laws violation.
We'll get to that, but do you think she was able to make any headway with them? Was she able, for example, you're telling me, hey, here's my response to misdemeanor, and it's not really a strong campaign finance case.
Yeah.
Did she say stuff like that?
She made all the arguments that we needed to make. I'll tell you that. Whether they were listening or not, look, to me, if they're pursuing this matter, it's weaponizing the justice system to keep this guy out of office. Donald Trump is going to win the election. And if they bring this case, I believe this will catapult.
Donald Trump's probably not even going to read we're in the primary.
They are weaponizing the justice system. They're taking the vote out of the voters' hands.
Joe, that's not really relevant, is it?
Oh, it's certainly relevant. What's not relevant to what? Relevant to what?
To his innocence. Either he's innocent or not.
No, it's not relevant to his innocence. He's innocent. And if they bring this case because he's innocent, this will catapult him to the White House. Okay. Let me rephrase that.
Appreciate it. So I appreciate you taking the questions. We've had a back and forth. That's all about your client's potential legal exposure.
Yes.
There's another piece to this story, and that is the conduct of the New York DA's office. You have a lengthy letter here. Mm-hmm. We've been waving papers around.
You can wave this one around all you want.
And you say a legal theory wouldn't pan out. The New York DA simply pivoted to a new theory because it was determined to identify an alleged crime. Pomerantz, you mentioned this former prosecutor who was detailed there, and his colleagues kept trying to bring back the case from the dead. Yeah. Now, this also is important. Whether people agree or disagree with your representation of Donald Trump, you're here. You're definitely a newsworthy person right now. Let's listen to some of what we heard from Mr. Pomerantz after he left the office and did his book tour.
Sure.
When you describe your reasoning and the debates between you and your team about the hush money thing, are you giving a potential lifeline to Donald Trump's defense lawyers?
I don't think we've given the defense any kind of leg up. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors in the DA's office, and I don't know what evidence is being presented. I don't know whether charges will be brought. The evidence is there. It may not be as sweeping an offense or an offense that involves so much money as the financial statement case, but it's still serious misconduct. I hope that case is brought.
For the benefit of the public record, what is it that you allege that is improper about either Mr. Pomerantz or the function of the DA that is provable that you think should be on the record?
I have an agreement that he signed when he left his Paul Weiss, which is a Clinton-affiliated law firm, by the way, as an aside. When he left Paul Weiss to join...
opinion, but go ahead.
It's not my opinion. It's a fact. They raised money for the Clintons, but it's whatever it is. He went to the district attorney's office as a prosecutor. You know, in his great book, he told his wife that not only did they not pay him, he would have paid to prosecute Donald Trump. Think about that. Let that roll around your head for a second. Prosecutors are supposed to be blind when it comes to dishing out justice. He would have paid to prosecute Trump, he said. Then he goes in there looking for a crime to fit the person. It's not supposed to be that way in our system. It's the other way around. Then he signs a document. And in that document, it says, if you reveal grand jury information, which is any information, according to this document, that you get during this investigation. He wasn't there as a pedestrian. He was there as a prosecutor.
Pedestrian?
With fiduciary obligations and confidentiality agreements. And if you reveal this to a third party, it's a felony under New York state law. Well, be damned. He just decided he was going to write a book. I believe his license will be taken from him. And I believe Alan Bragg is going to look for criminal charges. That's what I believe. That's what I've heard, but we'll see what happens there. But here's what he said.
From who?
District Attorney's Office.
From someone currently working in the office?
Correct.
Said
Correct.
what?
That they're looking at the conduct of Pomerantz in violation of the grand jury secrecy laws. It's black and white. It's in his agreement that he signed.
Why would they tell you that right now?
Because I've been interacting with them on that topic.
Would you say that in a sworn affidavit?
Sure. You have a sworn affidavit you want me to sign?
Well, I mean, I don't
Would
have
I
it
say
on
that?
set.
I wouldn't
It's
say
a
it on.
quite- it's a
I wouldn't say it
heady-
on television if I wouldn't say it in the sworn affidavit. Okay.
Well, it's a heady allegation you're making, and you're citing the current DA's office.
And it's a factual allegation. He signed a document.
So here's the question.
Don't
No,
forget,
I'm
Alan Bragg went on television to say what he's done is in violation of grand jury secrecy laws.
And we reported that.
There's
And
not a shock here. right?
I'm giving you time on this.
Tie up though the Pomerantz
Go ahead.
thing.
Okay.
Here's what he said in his book, which was clearly one of the most biased things I've ever read, because he said he wanted to get Trump. He wanted to find a crime to fit Trump. What he said.
Nobody else ever wrote a biased book.
Daniel's hush money case was the zombie case. It's the one that no prosecutor would touch in a million years. And it's funny that we have now reduced ourselves to the point of relying solely on Michael Cohen, a guy who's a convicted liar, to bring a case.
I mean, there's wiretap stuff.
President Trump, when they have nothing else. They scoured for 3 years.
You know,
all
it's
of his
interesting. You're
records in
jumping.
his life.
I got to say, you're jumping around because I wanted to give you time on the Pomerantz piece. You're jumping around as a reporter and fact checker. I have to say, we have the Cohen receipts. It's not just his word. Your point is he was convicted, and he was convicted of these crimes. But we'll put up on the screen for people to remember multiple receipts of these payments. This is, I think we have this in part one, our Cohen payments, which he made. So those checks are signed by your client, Donald Trump. That is not Mr. Cohen's word. Those are actively verified financial receipts. And when they talk about receipts, that's what you're facing in court.
You know, I honestly, I think it's time for me to get a thicker pair of glasses, maybe, because I'm not extra. That says Donald Trump on it, right? That's
and it's from
made
the
out
actual banks, and it's the actual receipts. Yeah.
Made out to who?
Will this work in New York court? Will you tell the judge you need glasses?
Made out
to Mr. Cohen.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, there's a fact that's not in dispute. What are you talking about? I thought you were showing me a check that was signed by my client that was sent to Stormy Daniels. Yes, he paid Michael Cohen.
Yes.
He was invoiced by Michael Cohen for legal fees.
I want to button up Pomerantz. I appreciate you taking all the questions. If you are, for the sake of argument, correct about Mr. Pomerantz, what do you say to the DA defense or few that he no longer works there, that they got rid of him, that this is a
They didn't get rid of him. He resigned.
He did resign, but what do you say to their view that whatever you think of him, even if you're right that he made chargeable mistakes, for the sake of argument, that doesn't vitiate and destroy this case against your client? What do you say to that?
I say, well, according to Alan Bragg, it caused a problem for them because Alan Bragg went and did a press conference saying that this compromises their grand jury investigation against Trump. So that was the DA saying that.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, just let's focus on these facts. Ari, these facts do not make out a crime, not a misdemeanor, not a felony, not a traffic ticket.
Yep.
They don't. They just don't. There is nothing.
Whatever this trial is or whatever this case is hasn't even started, and this guy hasn't really gotten any discovery. So he doesn't really know what's going on here and what evidence is going to be presented because the whole thing hadn't even started yet. We're in speculation land right now.
Criminal about what happened in the Stormy Daniels payments.
You make your point there. I'm not going to ask you to answer for everything Donald Trump has ever said, but
couldn't do that.
You are his lawyer. Here is what he's saying on the legal front. This is new from his most recent speech at CPAC.
Okay.
Take a look.
Mm-hmm.
If you put me back in the White House, their reign is over. I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
Serious question. You know what's going on in the country. You're a lawyer. You've done a lot of cases in New York. That's how we know you.
Yep.
Do you have a client who is actively threatening that if he takes control of the government or the Justice Department, he will misuse it against his critics, that he will try to jail people from the DA's office?
I can see how.
What is your response to that?
I can see how detractors would say that. You know, he's a fiery speaker. But what I see from that is reducing the weaponization of the Justice Department. There's a committee now.
Wait, what? Reducing the weaponization? But he just said.
Has now.
Did we just listen to the same clip, dude?
Of this country to oversee the weaponization of the Department of Justice against individuals.
He's vowing.
And he's not the president.
He's vowing.
He's not the president,
sir. He's vowing, quote, retribution.
Retribution means getting rid of all the bad apples, all the bad actors who have violated the oath of the Department of Justice. There's a committee. It's President Biden's reign right now, and they formed a committee under President Biden for the DOJ to be overseen because of the weaponization of the Justice Department, and it makes me ill, honestly.
You're handling this New York case. Would you defend him on January 6th?
Listen, what I'm not going to do is go into, I don't know about all these other cases.
Would you take the January 6th?
I don't know about all of my fucking clients' potential fucking crimes is a wild thing for an attorney to say on a fucking TV show.
If I believe
oh my God.
the case, I would certainly take. That's why I'm involved in this
Do you
case.
believe in the case?
I don't know enough about it. I believe in him. I will tell you that. I
Joe,
believe.
Joe, I'm giving you time. Joe, you know what happened on January 6th.
What's not going to happen is I'm not going to go into hypotheticals. I'm just not going to do it. I know what
But the whole thing is hypothetical because there hasn't even been an indictment yet. You're dealing in hypotheticals with regards to this the thing that everybody thinks or a lot of people think might happen vis-a-vis Stormy Daniels. This is all speculation.
Would you take Donald Trump's January 6th defense?
Donald Trump?
Yeah.
What did he do wrong?
I'm asking if you take the case. I'm not doing an interview with you. I'm interviewing you. Would you take the case?
Let's switch seats then for a minute.
Someday we will. Would you take that case?
If they asked me to take it and there were a case, depending on what the allegations were, of course. It's also a matter of...
Depending. All right.
Yeah, depending. I can't just say I'll take any case. I don't do that as a
Joe,
lawyer. Okay?
we are...
I believe in this man. I believe in Donald Trump. And I feel he's being victimized by a system, and it makes me sick to my stomach.
And you got time. I appreciate you being here. You're welcome to come back. Your client is welcome to come on and take the questions.
And
Thank you for saying I was fair. We think this is important, and we discussed multiple aspects, including what you say is wrong with the DA's road to here. I appreciate you coming on the beat.
All right.
Tacopina.
Thank you.
That was pretty good. I like how he's like, oh, I'm not gonna talk about. Basically said I'm not gonna speculate. But the problem is the whole thing is speculation. We don't know the dude hasn't gotten discovery yet. If there is anything going to happen at all in the legal system, the dude has no idea like what the evidence that's going to be presented is. He may have some idea of what it is, but there's a whole part of the process called discovery in a criminal case and in a civil case, if any civil cases come out or arise out of whatever happens here. So this guy's like, I'm not going to deal in hypotheticals. Yeah, you are. The whole thing's hypothetical now. I saw somebody in chat, like if Donald Trump gets arrested, watching him try to resist arrest would be hilarious. Like if since it's a federal case, I believe the U.S. Marshals would come get him, watch him try to like resist arrest or try to tell the Secret Service to like protect him from the marshals or some shit. I mean, if he's going to get arrested, it's going to be fucking crazy. And real quick, if he does get arrested, which I am skeptical is going to happen, but if he does, as soon as that happens, the media wench is going to drag my fucking carcass out of bed and she's going to take the rest of the day off, and we're going to be your one-stop shop for all of that, because we know who to look for. We're not really going to be watching MSNBC, right? We're going to be watching Oreo Express. We're going to be watching like the Clay Clark people. We're going to be watching Turning Point USA. We're going to be watching Daily Wire. We're going to be seeing like what the sort of not the troops. I don't like that word, but who are eventually going to act as his propaganda wing. What they're doing when if he gets arrested, which again I'm pretty doubtful of. I share Zoot's skepticism. Elevators, thank you for the follow. Thank you for the sub. I think you just subbed for the first time. I appreciate it. You could spend your money anywhere. I'm not sure why you spend it here, but fucking A. So here's a whole other take on this matter. This is from one of Trump's former spiritual advisors. We've played a lot of videos of her before. Don't worry. God will make sure that there's actually no indictments.
I told you, my children, don't worry about the things that you see, because the things that you see are temporary. What they are trying to do to your rightful president That's a laughing matter. There will be no indictment of my son. Not the way they wanted it to go. Oh, no, no, no. The indictments? Oh, yes, there will be indictments, I promise you.
Oh, I bet they're the fucking 50 billion sealed indictments that the Q people were talking about, right?
But it will be indictments for for the ones.
Whoa, she's doing this on Thursday at 5:29 in the morning.
Who are
Did she just get up or has she been up all night?
Make this indictment. Because this is a time of seed time and harvest. And I told you before, many, many times, in many other words I've given to you. They are reaping a harvest. They have no idea what's coming. I am.
That's Q shit.
An end.
You have no idea what's coming is Q shit.
Because I am the great I am.
That was just complete QAnon fucking bullshit. But I think that was a much more reasonable take that God is actually preventing any of this from happening. So now we're going to move on to our local government section of the show. This is Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton talking about the cartels and Joseph Biden.
You hit the problem that I struggle with, because most of these people are going to Border Patrol. The Border Patrol are not our enemies, right? They're trying to do their job, and they're being directed to do it a certain way that doesn't necessarily follow federal law, and they know that, and they're frustrated by it. But the challenge would be, we declare invasion. What does that mean practically for dealing with what the major problem is here, which is this asylum issue, where we would have to have some type of direct conflict with Border Patrol? That doesn't make any sense. So it makes the invasion issue more of a subset of the whole. If you declared an invasion and somehow the state could actually execute and stop the invasion, even with that, you'd still have the major problem of most people are being taken by the cartels willfully. I mean, this is all, it's a partnership, and everybody's part of it. The people that are being transported, the cartels, and the Biden administration are all in a partnership. It's not written in a contract, but that's what's going on. So that's
fucking crazy. Like what he was saying, it kind of doesn't make any sense. He's like, if we declare an invasion, then are we going to go after the Border Patrol? Well, no, you're not. Like, what does it even mean that if Texas declares an invasion? Is it like 1, 2, 3, 4? I declare a thumb war? Like, what does it mean to declare an invasion? I don't even know. Like, is there like laws on the books where the governor has power to declare a specific type of emergency that they're going to call an invasion? I don't know. Anyway, Oklahoma lawmakers have rejected a bill that would have banned corporal punishment for kids with disabilities in schools. Seems like seems great.
Several scriptures could be read here. Let me just read just one. Proverbs 29, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself bringeth his mother to shame. So that would seem to endorse the use of corporal punishment. So how would you reconcile this bill with...
This is fucked up. They don't want the teachers to be able to be like, oh, that's Sally, she has 2 mommies, and some people have 2 mommies. But they do want the teachers to be able to be like, whack! That kid does something they don't like. Totally fucking rational fucking people.
With Scripture's counsel on this matter.
I would say that this is limited to special needs children's.
I'm going to allow you to have one more question, and then you have to get back in the queue, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your tolerance. On what basis would we automatically assume? Now, I'm sure there are some cases where capacity is so limited they may not understand the rules and expectations. But on what basis would we automatically conclude that a special needs child should not get corporal punishment?
What about on the basis of don't hit children? I know this is a wild idea, but what if it's on the basis of we don't hit children?
Because in this bill it says that these are students that are classified as IDEA special needs students.
Like, why are they, like, why is this, are the teachers hitting the kids in Oklahoma? I sure hope not. I imagine that most teachers just don't do it, right? The kind of person who's going to be a teacher is very unlikely, I think, to be the kind of person who's going to be like, well, you know what, I can solve the problem with Timmy, the 8-year-old. Violence. I hope I hope that's the case, and I imagine that is the case, that the overwhelming majority of teachers, no matter where they are in this country, don't think that violence is a solution to a child misbehaving. But there might be some who think it is, and that's pretty bad. You know, I mean, I don't have kids, but if I found out, say, that the Meaty Wench's kids had been hit by their teacher, I'd be like, let's roll. You know? I mean, I'd be like, we got to go up to Reading, I guess. Somebody got to hit back. I mean, yo, this is absolutely fucking outrageous. This is just fucking, I cannot fucking believe this. Also in the state of Oklahoma, apparently there's a right to gardening that one of the Democratic members of I believe it's the State House, they're going to bring up a really, it's not an important point, but it is pretty funny what they're going to bring up about it's like a right to garden bill without like the federal government like somehow stopping you from having a garden. Who cares what the language of the bill is? It's probably dumb as fuck. But here's Andy Fugate. He's a Democrat from Oklahoma City, and he's going to ask a really important about this question about this right to garden bill.
Has there been anybody that you're aware of that has been prohibited from gardening?
I think that no. I'll just say no.
Will this bill prevent Man Bear Pig from eating my garden?
I didn't understand you. Could you repeat your question?
You're recognized to repeat the question.
Mr. Speaker, will your bill prevent Man Bear Pig from eating my garden?
Thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. No, sir, it will not.
You're recognized for a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, would you believe Man Bear Pig is a made-up problem? I'm super serial.
If you say so.
Yeah, the idea that the fucking federal government's going to come in and fucking chop down your fucking tomatoes and shit is just amazing. There are probably federal regulations about like gardening or growing plants or whatever, and they may, if the laws are like read kind of loosely, apply to somebody's garden. But I just don't imagine the federal government is spending a lot of time enforcing that. Maybe on some of the community gardens in the city, right? They might be enforcing that shit on community gardens in the city, but not your backyard. It's just really dumb. It's like they'll take my fucking kumquat plant from my cold dead hands. So we're moving on to we're going to move on to two stories from Minnesota. This is a Republican state rep, Bobby Harder in Minnesota, going to talk a little bit about equality and just who gets to be equal. This is going to be, obviously going to be fantastic. We're going to learn a lot here.
I understand the LGBTQ, okay, the whole group. If they can choose who they wish to partner with, that is their choice. The part that I have that I'm going to take issue with is that I am a woman. I was born that way. You cannot change that. So you are including people, if I understand this correctly, that are changing because that's their choice. I mean, they can do that, right? But now you're including people that were not born as girls. They're something else. So now they're being included. So the perception that I have is that now I'm potentially going to be excluded. Because
why?
I'm coming up with that we are all equal, but apparently some people are more equal than others. I mean, I struggle with that.
Wait, this idea that if you like include people if you give people rights, that you're taking away other people's rights is incorrect. You may be taking away privilege from some people. Privilege may be a zero-sum game, right? Where when you give somebody rights, you may be taking away someone else's privilege. And I'm willing to agree to that. That's probably the case. But you're not taking away anybody's rights by taking away their privileges. That's why we have two different words, a word for rights and a word for privileges. So that was fucking stupid. She couldn't even figure out how to like, because like there's these turfy talking points about how like, you know, by letting people they would call men into women's spaces, or letting people that they would erroneously call men identify as women, that somehow they're pushing women out, like cis women out of, I don't know, whatever, the cupcake shop. Well, no, you're not. You're just letting somebody else into the cupcake shop. And the cupcake shop thrives because now you've let twice as many people or extra people into your fucking cupcake shop. So, also in Minnesota, if people know, they signed a bill to give free school, I believe, breakfast and lunch to all students in public schools in Minnesota. Well, here's Republican state representative or state senator Steve Drazkowski, just not really interested in, I guess, lunch.
Mr. President, I have yet to meet a person in Minnesota that is hungry. Yet today. I have yet
that's
to
because
meet a
you're
person
rich.
in Minnesota that says they don't have access to enough food to eat. Now, I should say that hunger is a relative term, Mr. President. You know, I had a cereal bar for breakfast. I guess I'm hungry now. That to some might be maybe that's the definition of the bill. I don't.
Wait, do you think they probably get free lunch and shit all the time in the Senate? I bet they do.
No, I didn't see a definition of hunger in the bill, Mr. President. But I think
But the bill, that's because the bill's just providing free lunch to everyone. It's a universal benefit for everyone. So we don't need to means test it because it's a pain in the ass. And some of the kids might not take advantage of it. If the kids whose parents have more money or whatever maybe don't like the school lunches, and the parents have the means to make the kid their favorite sandwich or whatever every day, the parents can still do that.
Reasonable people suggest hunger means you don't have enough to eat in order to provide for metabolism and growth.
Okay, so that's the thing is, this is going to, I guarantee you, like, none of the kids are going to be in love with any of these school lunches at any point, right? So this is going to kind of self-select out anyway, and it's going to really help kids, especially when the parents are like on the cusp, right? Or maybe they wouldn't necessarily qualify for the school lunch program, but they're having financial problems. You know, maybe mom just lost her job, or dad's hours got cut, or, you know, maybe mom's an independent contractor and she lost a client, but they can't really prove that because they haven't done their taxes yet and they don't qualify yet. So it's going to help a lot of people on the cusp, or just even just regular, like middle class people who are just running late and don't have time to make breakfast or lunch for their kids, because people run late. Parents are run fucking ragged. And that's just one less thing that person has to worry about on their way out the door in the morning. And even if it's a rich parent, that's still a good thing. My God. These people need to shut the fuck up. Don't worry. Here's Tiny Dancer Ben talking about school lunches. Because usually Tiny Dancer Ben shows up at the second half of the docket, but the school lunch thing ended up on the front half of the docket. So here's Ben talking about school lunches, which I'm sure he is not in favor of.
If government can protect kids from the sick radical left, shouldn't they also protect kids from hunger? Wouldn't it make sense to strengthen food stamps and have school lunch be free, since some kids are in school lunch debt? Well, I mean, if you are a parent, school lunches are not going to solve the problem of child hunger at any serious level. If there is a problem of children actually starving, that is a child endangerment scenario to which CPS needs to be called. If you're talking about like actual child starvation, the truth is it does not take that much money to feed a child. I know I have 3 of them. You should be feeding your child.
How much money do you make, Ben?
It's that simple. There's a much deeper problem at work than school lunches if kids are legitimately starving.
Yo, that's the thing, is if you take the burden off during the fucking school week,
that's like people who are on the cusp or people who are in poverty, that's that much less money they have to spend on fucking food. And then the kids will end up being more likely to be food secure. And again, I just see how this just helps like middle class people too, because that's just something they don't have to worry about it. They're like, I don't have time. I'm sorry. I didn't have time to make your lunch. You just, lunch is free at school. Have the school lunch. And then they go have the school lunch with the other kids, which is good too. Because then everybody's getting the same lunch. And the kids are like, oh, okay, cool. And nobody knows who the kids who are on the school lunch program, because kids are cruel and they're going to make fun of the kids on the school lunch program too. This just solves a lot of problems. So apparently, some in Florida are just trying to outlaw the Democratic Party.
The Ultimate Cancel Act is a bill I introduced in the Florida legislature that said that the state of Florida would immediately decertify any political party that had advocated pro-slavery positions in their official party platforms. Over the years, I've watched leftist Democrats look to cancel people, places, and things, tearing down monuments, changing names of buildings. But all of that was because of something that happened a couple hundred years ago, and a lot of it was tied to slavery. So this bill is basically holding the Florida Democrat Party accountable also, because it was Democrats who actually adopted pro-slavery positions in their actual party platforms. Cancel culture dictates no matter what you do now or what you say now, you basically have to pay for the sins of the past. So the sins of the past in this instance is a Democrat party that actually adopted pro-slavery positions in their party platform.
But it wouldn't be that hard to find like individual Republic. Oh, but he's saying it's part of the platform. This all happened a very long time ago. And the reason we want to tear down the monuments isn't because of what political party they were affiliated with. We were like, maybe we shouldn't valorize these people who were fighting for slavery, which we outlawed after the Civil War. My other thing is I think they should just do monuments for like 10 years and then put up another monument, because there's just somebody else who's a badass, probably a great person in history who we could make a monument to. That'd solve the whole problem, actually. Fucking rename all the fucking schools every 10 years, everything. Just put that shit on rotation so we don't even have to fight about this anymore. But this is not the same thing. And that's stupid. It's, and I think even the current Supreme Court would find this unconstitutional. So more on sort of local issues here. This is a teacher named Greg. He was 8th grade social studies teacher in Iowa. And there are accusations that he broke the anti-CRT law. And here's a call basically that he recorded with, I believe, a school administrator, the superintendent of the schools, actually, whether or not he was allowed to teach that slavery is wrong.
Knowing that I should stick to the facts and knowing that to say slavery was wrong, that's not a fact. That's a stance. Is it acceptable for me to teach students that slavery was wrong?
I think it goes back to the part with critical race theory is that we can say this is what happened, and again, you probably know more about it than I do, Greg, and I think that's maybe even my and Laura's both, is that this is all new stuff. But in my opinion, here is what happened in our history. And we had people that were slaves within our state. We're not supposed to say to them, how does that make you feel? We can't.
Wait, why?
Does that make you feel bad? We're not to do that part of it. To say is slavery wrong? I really need to delve into it to see, is that part of what we can or cannot say? And I don't know that, Greg, because I just don't have that. So I need to know more on that side.
Wow.
I'm sorry on that part.
Yeah. I think with the 5 minutes running down, I I understand the level of support I'll be provided from here on out. Oh, shit. Thank you for meeting today.
He's like, I understand the situation entirely. Oh, that poor guy. He's just trying to teach 8th grade social studies, and they're like, well, don't tell the kids that slavery was wrong. That's CRT. So now the former president, here's him standing in front of some fucking flags, because that, as you do. And he's going to talk about how Russia isn't really even like a geopolitical adversary of the United States, really, which is a wild thing to say if you're not a fucking Russian asset, or maybe what they might have called in the Soviet era, a useful idiot.
At home, the State Department, the defense bureaucracy, the intelligence services, and all of the rest need to be completely overhauled and reconstituted to fire the deep staters and put America first. We have to put America first. Finally, we have to finish the process we began under my administration of fundamentally reevaluating NATO's purpose and NATO's mission. Our foreign policy establishment keeps trying to pull the world into conflict with a nuclear-armed Russia based on the lie that Russia represents our greatest threat. But the greatest threat to Western civilization today is not Russia. It's probably, more than anything else, ourselves and some of the horrible USA-hating people that represent us.
I mean, that's true. I just disagree on who those people might be. And I wouldn't frame it as like hatred of the USA. I would frame it as hatred of your fellow citizen, which is kind of on the upswing lately, in case you haven't noticed. And I think that is a threat. Just random, not even random, bigoted hatred of your fellow citizen is a big threat. But that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about me. He's talking about you. He's talking about people who might tune into this channel, to the extent that most people here are United States citizens, I think, or Americans. Most people here live in the United States. Twitch gives you metrics. And and so does the podcast apps. Most people are in the United States who listen to this. So he's talking about us. He's saying you hate America because you don't agree with Donald Trump, which is wild. And that's fairly fascistic, in my never humble opinion. He's especially talking, there's people in the chat are like, excuse me, he's especially talking about me. So here's Lindsey Graham on, if you remember, this week, I think it's kind of no big deal. A Russian plane kind of tried to take out took out a U.S. drone, and I think they took out their own fucking plane in the process. But I'm not 100% sure. Foreign policy and that kind of stuff, we don't really cover it much here. But here's Lindsey Graham to be like, what would Reagan do?
They shot down our drone. What should our answer be?
To be fair, they didn't shoot it down. They dumped a bunch of fuel on it. They chemtrailed it.
Well, we should hold them accountable and say that if you ever get near another U.S. set flying in international waters, your airplane would be shot down. What would Ronald Reagan do right now? He would start shooting Russian planes down if they were threatening our assets.
Ronald Reagan would be like, what the fuck is a drone? It was an escalation by Russia, the Russian government, the Russian military to take out an American drone. But I'm not sure that we should be trying to start World War III over this. Seems like a bad idea. In fact, Donald Trump would agree with me based on the last video we just watched that we probably shouldn't be starting World War III with a nuclear power, because it seems like a bad thing to end up doing. I got two Brian Kilmeade clips from Fox News, and then we're going to take a quick break, play a song, and we'll get to the second half of the docket here. Here's Brian Kilmeade. Went to Florida to talk to people in a diner to try to get them excited about Ron DeSantis, and it didn't really go so well.
What's special about this place? What's special about Tampa Bay?
Just, DeSantis is a great governor. He allows us the freedom to be able to do what we like to do and no taxation. So it's a great place to live.
All right. So tell me what attracted you to this lovely, handsome man 60 years ago.
He was good looking.
Still is.
Yes, he is. And he was funny. A little humor can get you a long way.
And let me just tell you, he's still funny, right?
Very much.
Okay. Let me go over here if I can. Sir, what's your name? Peter Shatner. All right, Peter Shatner. Why was it important for you to wear this jacket that screams Florida and come down here an hour before this opened to be on our show?
Because I'm going to direct traffic later.
He's not funny.
Most to you?
You mean generally now, right now? I think we have a problem in this country. I think we need new management. And I hope that Trump runs, of course, and wins. But we'll see what happens.
All right. How many people here want Trump to run? How many people want Trump to win? Okay. All right. We're going to have
That's
more
Tampa.
Everybody. We'll get everybody's opinions here this morning. It's a great breakfast place. I'm so glad you're up. Let's go either to break. In fact, I want to go to Ainsley.
Governor Ron DeSantis. Watch this.
To run for president. Would you think at some time it's safe to say that that would be one of your goals?
Gosh, very talented, Brian. His answer in the next hour. But first, it is National Canine Veterans Day.
What the fuck? Why did they just cut to Brian Kilmeade playing catch with the governor? Whatever. Fox News is fucking weird. I hope Dominion takes them out. But then, like, we'd have to find, I don't know what we'd do for the fucking most of this podcast, honestly. It's pretty Fox News heavy podcast around here, especially lately. So here's Brian Kilmeade, fucking, I guess, husband of the year. I don't know what else to say about this clip. This is fucking stupid. I would never say this just to a friend about, much less on TV.
Midtown Manhattan, welcome to Fox and Friends Hour 1.
Well, we always say that Dawn does the shoveling at your house. Since you work a morning show, she hasn't made as much spending money because I know you pay her to do that.
Right.
Because we haven't had any snow.
But first, I'd like to see how she does. I don't just give her money.
So
you review your wife's work? Yeah, and I do it through the Ring doorbell. Have you? So I could have the money ready.
Which I think just got hacked.
Right.
Did you see that? Yeah.
Mine?
Ring doorbell.
Oh, just general? I would say yesterday, just
husband of the year. He's like, I give my wife an allowance if she fucking shovels the snow and I check on the fucking Ring doorbell. He might have been kidding, but it's not. I mean, if you're kidding, right? Isn't the thing supposed to be funny? Because that wasn't funny. Be funny like if it was your kids, right? But not your wife. Anyway, that's hour 1. We're doing an extended just news segment for the podcast people. Everybody just kind of hang out, live listeners, podcast listeners. I don't know, if you really don't want to hear this NVS song, you can skip ahead. You should probably just listen to this NVS song. This is Nice Guys by NVS, and I'm going to take a quick break during this song, grab myself another energy drink, and we'll be back with more news.
In this world, I'm cesspool of kindness and ethical blindness. So please excuse my sarcastic tone. I'm a bit underwhelmed by the sample shown. Mr. Bistro fraternity guy, you got my ass full of bloodshot eyes. Get drunk and fight every night. Idolize Bradley, belittle women's rights. Homophobic, racist, and don't give a fucking hey. Do you think you can drive a bigger truck? So wear your baseball cap to the side to let everyone know that you're a nice guy. So cool, was so impressed. Lots of chicks and a barrel chest. Cause you're a real man. Punch for punch, gonna piss in your face while you're passed out drunk. I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy. He's a nice guy, but all of you are assholes. I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy. She's a nice guy, but all of you are assholes. Nice guys rule the planets. I just can't understand it. Conquer divine by deception and lies. Social Darwinism and an overdose of pride. Fuck off, Sherlock! I don't wanna hear it. Fuck off, Sherlock! Read into the lyrics, cause everybody gets their just desserts. As long as you remember that nice guys finished Mr. White Beater, you're next on the list. So such a nice guy who speaks through his fists. Prick with a penchant for messing with heads. A broken nose for dinner and breakfast in bed. Alcoholic, paranoid, and suicidal too. But you'll probably kill her before she gets away from you. She rolls in a pool of blood and cry. All your friends say that you're a nice guy. Have a drink, this one's on me. Look, you're doing fine, losing to your disease. Comatose, I'll pack your bags. Bury you like cash and gag. Oh, I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy. We're all nice guys, but oh, you're an asshole. He's a nice guy, she's a nice guy. Hey, Tom Bone's a nice guy. Oh, you're assholes, nice guys. Roll the planets, the polygonetech. Put a body, but it's structure and lies. So when there's a man in overdose of pride. Fuck off, jerk off, I don't wanna hear it. Fuck off, jerk off, read it to the lyrics. So let the bucket spill quench your thirst. As long as you remember that nice guys finish first.
All right, we're into hour 2 of the podcast, part of this show, extended show this week. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Thanks, everybody, hanging out live. And, of course, anybody who's still listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you're a real one, because this is maybe not so great without the video and without the chat. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Odyssey, and, of course, Twitch, twitch.tv/Echoplex Media, where you can catch us live 5 nights a week, Wednesday through Sunday, sometimes Tuesday as well, depending on what's going on. Anyway, everybody knows that Silicon Valley Bank went under, essentially, last week. And so we're going to show you some of the dumbest takes about it. First one, of course, can't have dumb takes without Jesse Waters.
When the Fed chair finally raised rates, the bank got crushed. Well, why weren't they paying attention? Silicon Valley Bank is a woke Biden bank. They were holding seminars on Lesbian Visibility Day and National Pride Month. Now, if you want to hold a Pride Month, that's fine, but you got to be able to chew gum at the same time and walk. So keep an eye on the balance sheet, guys.
Yeah, that's what happened. They were like, we'd like to do our banking work, but what we're going to do instead is a Lesbian Visibility Day. Like, what a dumb fucking take. And everybody has this take. They're like, oh, they went under, get woke, go broke. And it's like, this is a bank. Not for nothing, they're based in the Bay Area, too. There's a lot of queer people here. So if you were trying to hire people and trying to get clients, you would want to appeal to everyone. And so that's part of marketing. Up next, we got Rudy Giuliani, who some people still let talk in places, saying that this is a Democrat bank.
You know, they're not calling this a taxpayer bailout, but it certainly is a bailout of sorts, is it not?
It is a taxpayer bailout. So Roku decided to put money in a bank that would rather waste money on useless, irresponsible, non-proven green programs that cost enormous amounts of money, that accomplish nothing because China doesn't do anything to deal with the climate. And you might not put money in that bank, and I might not, because we think that is the most foolish kind of waste of money, but we have to pay for it. We have to pay for their political choice. So this is I'm not talking about Signature now. I'm talking about SVB. Mm-hmm. This is a Democrat bank. It's a woke bank. And it's a bank that makes choices based on their cult religion as opposed to pure economics.
So this isn't taxpayer money. After the last collapse, the banks are engaged in the functional equivalent of auto insurance. all the banks have to put some money in this fund that will bail out banks or make their depositors whole if shit hits the fan. And that's where either all or most of this money, or most or all of this money, is coming from. So he's just incorrect. I had to look into this, actually. I didn't have to, but I decided to because it only took a few minutes to look into it. I don't know. I'm not a genius like Rudy Giuliani, though, so he just knows shit without looking it up, apparently. So up next, we got Obama made the banks woke with good old Tucker Carlson. Because, of course, it's Obama. Obama made the banks woke.
But that's not the end of the story. In some ways, it's the beginning. So here's the part where you pause and ask yourself a question that too few seem to be considering right now. They're doing this. What are they going to get in return? Oh, something, for sure. Remember that after 2008, the Obama administration, Eric Holder, swooped in and imposed DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion standards on the entire financial sector. And that's one of the main reasons our big banks are now increasingly incompetent, and also one of the reasons Americans are so divided by race.
Like the subtext of this is that people who aren't middle-aged or older white men are incompetent. That's the subtext here.
Ideologues used the 2008 bank bailout to kill American meritocracy.
Also, George W. Bush was the president in 2008.
That's a big step, mostly unacknowledged, but we're living with its consequences. So you have to ask yourself, what are they going to do this time?
They're going to use the fund that all the banks paid into to make the depositors whole. And the investors are going to get nothing. That's it. That's what they're going to do. Now I got Fox and Friends. They're just going to try to cause a run on all the banks, actually. I'm not kidding. Here's Fox and Friends. They're like, let's do a run on the banks from our morning show.
David Sachs, who's well-respected general partner.
Oh, my God, David Sachs. I loved fucking watching David Sachs just melt the fuck down last weekend because the news about SVB dropped on a Friday, and David Sachs just freaked out on Twitter all weekend. So did that asshole Jason Calacanis. Oh, it was so glorious to watch. Check out our How the Tech Are You show. We got a little bit more into that on our How the Tech Are You show.
Aircraft Ventures. He's on a podcast and he's saying he thinks the more banks could go down this road. Mm-hmm. And then Wall Street Journal writes saying in their editorial that he is a panic spreader. Yeah. So yes. To take it easy today and don't let this ripple through the economy. There's other fear is if you get rid of the regional banks, if all the regional banks say, okay, if they fail, I fail, and if we could become a country run by 4 major banks, we all lose.
I understand not ensuing panic, but I think it's time to be honest with the American people at the same time.
We need to go to our banks and take our money out.
Well, I mean, I think if you're above that $250,000 mark,
that's not
insured. I think there should be some caution right there. And I think for the people that are saying, okay, these are just the big tech companies. What about the little small business owners like Etsy, like this one lady that Nina was talking about? Look, I'm a mom and pop store. I'm just selling my merchandise on there. True indeed, this is in Etsy, but it's a marketplace.
But like, then if she's just selling a few things on Etsy, she probably don't got no fucking $251,000 in a single bank account.
Of other small business owners, I think that's the real problem.
It shows you how it trickles down. Even if she doesn't bank with this bank, how it's affecting her.
They were heavily into equity and all these pride days around the world. Where is your focus on regulation and risk? And I think that there's an imbalance there. And it seems like a lot of these venture capital companies were all concentrated.
Well, when it was
in
good.
The startups in these tech centers.
That's exactly right, Brian.
So it wasn't actually a lot of venture money that was in there. The problem was that there was payroll in there. There wasn't a lot of VCs that kept their money there. The venture capital firms keep their money in the big banks, as you would expect them to. Although I hope David Sachs lost a bunch of money. I don't think he did, but I hope he did. Well, he wouldn't even live. He just had money deposited there. It would have been backstopped. I think we should backstop everyone but David Sachs and Jason Calacanis, actually. Fuck those people. Anyway, those were just dumb takes on SVB. I don't know that I have a better take on it because I am incredibly biased. as a person who lives in Silicon Valley and grew up, came of age and started working in technology during the first tech boom. I hate these people. They ruined hell of people's lives. Fuck the venture capitalists. And I like seeing them while out and freak out on Twitter. It's one of my favorite things in the world, watching rich people make drama about like stuff that isn't even going to affect them, their material conditions in any meaningful way. So apparently there is going to be a war about water or something like that. It's not Waters, not Jesse Waters, but it is Fox News. And here's the water war on Fox News with somebody who apparently is calling himself Leo 2.0.
And Michigan gubernatorial candidate Tudor Dixon. Tudor, I'll throw this to you first. First, they want my stove. Now they want my dishwasher. What's next? They're going to take away my iron next? I don't know.
Yeah, well, look, I'm someone who does lots of laundry. I do laundry for 6 people every week. And so I know a little bit about this. And the last thing I need is my laundry taking longer. I'm already dealing with a low flow shower head, and my kids are coming out with conditioner smashed to their head like an old Seinfeld episode. And I have to tell them to get back in and rewash. I can't even flush my toilet one time to get toilet paper down because of the.
How much toilet paper are you using?
I don't need a low flow washing machine. This is ridiculous.
Leave my washing machine alone, but more importantly, leave my gas stove alone.
Like, come on. That was whack. That was a dumb segment. I'm glad that got pulled, though, because this hell was stupid. Low flow shower heads are actually great. Low flow dishwashers are actually great. A new dishwasher does a better job of washing your dishes than the old ones did. And if your kids don't know how to wash the conditioner out of their hair, then, yeah, send them back to the shower. They're just kids. That's fine. No problem. Everything she described is just, if you have 6 kids, yeah, you're going to do a lot of laundry, but I don't know, maybe have the kids help you with the fucking laundry, lady. I mean, I guess if your kids are incompetent and can't even wash the fucking conditioner out of their hair, maybe they shouldn't be doing their laundry. I don't know. Up next, we got Tucker Carlson, and he is just all over the fucking place in this clip here. Just all over the place.
90 years ago in the 1930s, the last Great Depression, nobody would have sat still from a moral lecture delivered by a bank. But they're very common now. Why? Well, a little history. After 2008, a movement emerged called Occupy Wall Street. At the time, it was at the cutting edge of left-wing social activism. And it did seem kind of organic. Most of these things are completely fake, like BLM, obviously orchestrated. But Occupy Wall Street...
No, Occupy Wall Street was organized by Adbusters and the internet activist group Anonymous. It was organized beforehand, actually, Tucker. Come on.
It seemed kind of real. It seemed like angry people. And some people from Occupy Wall Street turned their attention to the head of JP Morgan, who of course is Jamie Dimon. They went to his office, they held signs outside for 24 hours a day, and they hassled other bank presidents too. And before long, a funny thing happened. Everybody in the media decided that Occupy Wall Street was boring. Anything about economics was boring, because who cares about carried interest? What's that? What we really want to talk about, they told you, is racial oppression and your role in it. And so we got a lot of
But that's because, like, if you look at this graph, right, right around 2010, where all the lines start going up, is right around where the manosphere got real big online. And the manosphere just fed into white nationalism. Like, this is the result of, like, online culture and racists getting popular on sites like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
That only for like 12 years now. An endless parade of lies about this or that, your complicity in systemic racism, police shootings. They're everywhere. Everyone's getting killed by the cops. Hands up, don't shoot. Remember that? So we're all still talking about that nonsense, ripping the country apart along racial lines. But guess what we're not talking about? Oh, banks. And guess who loves that? Banks. They deeply appreciate that. And maybe that's why, as BLM rioters torched major cities, Democrats who took big money from big banks knelt in reverence to BLM.
I told you there was a lot going. He was like all over the place there. Yeah, the Democratic Party takes money from big financial institutions. Fucking stop the presses. Like, a lot of, like, even liberals don't necessarily like that. Like, we don't have to get into, like, leftists. Like, a lot of liberals think that's a problem. And until we like dramatically change the way our fucking campaigns are financed, there's nothing you can do about it. They have every right under the current system to donate to whoever they want, just like any other fucking entity does, as long as they do it within the bounds of the law. And you don't see Tucker out there advocating for campaign finance reform, do you? So I guess his problem is really just that, like, liberals. And to be fair, Occupy Wall Street, we didn't really get a lot of great people out of Occupy, right? Fucking Tim Pool first hit the scene during Occupy. Maybe I'll just leave it there. So here's a former presidential candidate, to the extent that she was one, Tulsi Gabbard, talking about abortion pins.
You celebrate. I couldn't believe it when I saw it in this last State of the Union speech, how many members of Congress are walking around with a big abortion pin on their suit jacket. Not just advocating for, but celebrating abortion on demand without exception, all the way up until birth or even after birth. Normalized.
Wait, what are you talking about?
I've seen this in places like New York and in
Wait, what the fuck? What do you mean after birth?
So this goes.
That's no longer an abortion after birth. It's fucking infanticide. Nobody's calling for that. I mean, you could probably find some dumb fuck on Twitter advocating for just about anything, right? But like, this is stupid. She's become like a caricature of like she's become a caricature basically of Sarah Palin at this point. There were so many people for such a long time who didn't fucking listen to people like me and, people at the Majority Report and kind of that leftist best fam about be like, oh, she's kind of sketch, actually. I don't know about Tulsi. And I mean, we were right. She's kind of sketch and maybe not so much kinda. She's sketch. She's going around here telling you that fucking there are after birth abortions. Like that this is not happening. I mean, are people committing infanticide? Sure, but they're not abortion doctors. There are people who do horrible things to their children, but that's not an abortion. Anyway, I had no idea that Mark Levin is still broadcasting, so I saw this come across my feed. I don't even care what he's talking about. Let's see what Mark Levin has to say. I'm sure it'll be great. He's on Fox News.
Joe Biden's an economic illiterate. Joe Biden's the guy who said we need to spend more money to beat inflation. When he came into office, as you said, there was no inflation. Interest rates were negligible. Now they're through the roof. Joe Biden has destroyed our banking system. He's destroyed our food system. He's destroyed our immigration system. He's destroyed our student loan system. He's destroyed our energy system. He's destroyed our athletic system.
And that's a lot of work.
But I think he's more Herbert Hoover. And he's setting fire to this country economically, politically, socially, and militarily. And you know what? It's only going to get worse with this guy. Shortages on electricity, shortages on oil, shortages on food, people coming over the border, and on and on and on. Why? Because he's an idiot. That's why.
All right. Well, whatever. Maybe we'll not watch another Mark Levin clip for a while because that wasn't really good propaganda. I'm not prepared to fire Mark Levin, sorry, but I will next time I see a clip from him. I'll skip it. I won't put it on the docket next time I see it. Now for some good news. Not necessarily a palate cleanser, but this is some good news. I think everybody in the chat is going to think this is good news. You're not going to believe where it's coming from. When you see the still before I run the video, you're going to be like, how could this possibly be good news? But trust me, this is good news.
About, I guess, the loan you took out at MyPillow. People are all over you about this.
Yeah, last year actually was 3 separate loans as the machine companies continue to sue us for billions of dollars, and we had to borrow almost $10 million at MyPillow. We're a company. We're an employee-owned company. It just baffles me, Steve. You've got all these.
If you're an employee-owned company, then how is you being sued as an individual bankrupting your employee-owned company, which is a separate legal entity?
are these machine companies out there, these voting machine companies that nobody even knew their name before, but everybody protects them. And yet you attack a USA company, MyPillow, and my employees, and it's just disgusting.
So I don't know if MyPillow is an employee-owned company. I get the feeling Mike Lindell probably would call that communism. But if they were an employee-owned company, then he's just an employee there essentially, and he has part ownership of it. And if somebody goes after him personally, it's not going to affect an employee-owned company. But I get the feeling that the employees don't own the company, and that he might be maybe commingling funds in a way that we may learn about in a future indictment, or possibly a deposition, or maybe both. Man, there's still a lot of stuff left, and we only got a half an hour until red light. Let's get Marjorie the Gathering here. Oh, this next clip's pretty funny. This is Moms. I believe this is the Moms for Liberty person. Oh no, this is just some lady. She's going to talk about CRT and the teaching of Black history in the United States.
Well, and I get very aggravated because I notice the folks who push CRT do not seem to take the time to teach about Frederick Douglass, who was a great Black founding father. They have erased
Frederick Douglass was not a founding father of this country.
The work of early Black people in this country. Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, many of these things, we're not taught about them, and therefore...
Wait, what? What do you mean? What do you mean we're not taught about Frederick Douglass or Harriet Tubman? Wait a minute. I mean, maybe that's illegal in some states now. Who knows?
Capacity.
So what we need to do is we need to get rid of this CRT nonsense and start teaching more about what Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, John Brown, the person who stole the Confederate ship, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Farrakhan. I mean, you know, the list goes on.
The list goes on.
She probably likes Farrakhan.
Robbery of both Black and white children to not teach that history, because Black children should be knowing that there were great Black leaders that they can identify with. And
at least she didn't mention Thomas Sowell.
These kids know who Marcus Garvey is.
Yeah,
exactly.
He snuck in like John Brown, Malcolm X, and fucking Farrakhan. That's fucking amazing. She has no idea who any of those fucking people are. So we're gonna go across the Atlantic to Turf Island, and this is something they're calling the Lesbian Project. This is going to be one of those things where they're trying to pit lesbian, gay, and sometimes bisexual people against trans people. It isn't working, actually. Just so people are like aware of this, it is not working. I don't have polling available, but I bet if you polled like gay and lesbian cis people, that the overwhelming majority of us are like, yeah, trans rights, because we see that the same tropes, the same bigoted tropes are being used to try to take rights away from trans people that were used against us to try to take our rights away. Especially those of us who were alive when that happened, people a generation older than me. I mean, just 10 years older than me. They know what the fuck this is. Anyway, this is from GB News. This is Julie Bindel of the Lesbian Project. If you look up Julie Bindel, she has a bit of a history of, well, you could just look up Julie Bindel yourself. You'll see.
This week saw the launch of a not-for-profit organisation which is said to be dedicated to the understanding and enhancement of lesbian lives in the UK. The Lesbian Project is the brainchild of tennis great Martina Navratilova, former university lecturer Kathleen Stock, and feminist campaigner and writer Julie Bindel. And I'm
Martina Navratilova's a TERF. What the fuck?
Delighted to say Julie's here with me now. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, the Lesbian Project, what's the genesis of this? Why did it start? What were you thinking?
Well, I was thinking a couple of years ago, why is it that the word lesbian and gay, or the terms lesbian and gay, have become all one word? And then, of course, we'd been subsumed within what has been known as more like a unbreakable Wi-Fi code than a useful acronym of LGBTQIA+. Nobody knows what...
Well, if You just remembered it.
2S as well, isn't it?
Two spirits.
Yes, exactly.
And nobody knows what the extra Q is. Nobody cares, quite frankly. And I thought to myself,
I've never seen the 2Q.
when I came out as a lesbian in the 1970s,
queer and questioning.
It was a dirty word. It was a word that I had to get used to saying. I would call myself gay or say I was bisexual because lesbian was really terrible. There were no good role models.
So now what I would like to do is to do that to trans people, if that's okay with you.
For lesbians, there were some for gay men that weren't exactly positive, but they were not grotesque.
Yes.
So we were portrayed as sexual predators.
Wait, what?
Butch as hell.
Wait, what are you doing to fucking trans people right now? Like, listen to you.
So Butch you could donate to a sperm bank. I mean, really grim stuff. And now where are we? Whereas there's more pressure from young women, or rather on young women, to identify as queer, which is their choice. But women have told me that they like the word lesbian, but they've been told in their university LGBTQIA plus groups, usually headed by some man, that the word lesbian is so last season.
Wait, no, I don't think anybody is telling a woman who is primarily attracted to other women that you can't call yourself a lesbian. I don't think anybody's telling people that. Who the fuck is saying this? Like, she's like, oh, it's just some man at a university. Well, who? Does he have a name?
It's really interesting that that's now become either a dirty word again or unfashionable in some way, because that long acronym, whatever we want to call it, LGBTQIA plus or whatever, some of the stats coming out of, for instance, America are suggesting that a significant proportion, something up to 40% of young people are identifying into that category.
Yes.
Most of them statistically must be straight.
That's right. And so
wait, why do you think that? Because in the past, people didn't identify. I bet a lot of people are identifying as gender fluid, bisexual, even maybe heteroflexible, which is like a fun word that I like. I think they're just more, I think younger people are just more open to these things. That means they may, most of the people, a lot of those people are going to primarily exist as cis people, and they're primarily going to probably have opposite sex partner relationships or whatever. I'm probably fucking this up. But if they want to be like, well, I might, who knows, I might play with my gender a little bit, or I might have a same sex experience, I might be open to that. Then who fucking, okay, that's fine.
Problem that I have as a lesbian isn't that other people want to identify as queer, as asexual, as sapiosexual, as aromantic, as all of those other ridiculous, quite frankly.
To be fair, sapiosexual people are probably very annoying. They're like, I'm just attracted to your intelligence. It's like, shut up.
Groups that suggest that they have some kind of oppression.
Yes.
I mean, for example, Ruth Hunt from Stonewall took time some years ago when she was still director to say that there were groups that weren't being best served within the Rainbow Coalition, and pointed out asexuals and aromantics. Well, who loses their flat? Who loses their family for not actually wanting to fall in love, for example? But
you don't lose your flat and your family if you're gay or lesbian or bisexual or hopefully not trans. There's laws, so like the same laws that would protect me as a gay man would also protect somebody who's openly asexual. I don't fucking see the problem. You shouldn't just be able to get kicked out of your fucking apartment for being fucking anything, even late on your rent, I don't think.
What was happening with young women being told that lesbian was a dirty word was that they were, of course, therefore identifying out of that category.
But who's doing this? I don't think anybody's saying that lesbian is a dirty word. I know hell of lesbians. I don't hear any of them complaining about this.
Have research such as that you've cited, where 40% of all people in a particular age group say that they're part of this big rainbow coalition. Obviously, that doesn't mean that they're either lesbian or gay. It means...
Well, no, because we're like, come on in. Most of us are like, come on in, baby. Come on in. We got you. We've been through this. To some extent, we're on the other end of this. We got you. I don't see what the problem is. You don't got to hang out with you don't got to hang out with anybody. I bet you don't get invited to shit. So.
Straight people identifying as queer. So what we want to know, and why I went to Kathleen Stock and then Martina Navratilova with the idea, which they were thrilled about, is where are the lesbians?
Everywhere. Home Depot.
What is the research about lesbian life, of which there's very little and hasn't been since the 1970s?
The Subaru dealership.
What happens, for example, when we marry or divorce? What happens to our children when we come out as lesbians? What about inter-violent relationships? What about violence from external forces? In other words, anti-lesbian violence. You'll note that...
But those are hate crimes. We have laws about... The laws about that stuff is probably in the UK. Those laws were on the book prior to most places in the United States.
Term homophobia is used to cover us as well.
Yes.
And actually that means anti-gay violence. Where's the research on our employment opportunities, on discrimination, on our health? And we're women, so we can't possibly usefully be lumped in with gay men when it comes...
Oh, no, now she did... oh, no. A GMERF. She's a gay man exclusionary radical feminist, a GMERF.
Those issues.
So are you saying that the proliferation of these various identity groups has actually muddied the waters and made it harder for lesbians to work together and be activists?
Yes, so I absolutely support the right of anyone to have an identity, whatever they choose. I don't, as a lesbian, want to be lumped in with minor attracted persons.
Whoa, nobody's doing that, lady. I mean, actually, people have been doing that for a while, and it's the same people that are fucking lumping in drag queens and trans people with what she's calling minor attracted persons. I would, whoa. No. Again, this lady's old enough to know that this shit was used against us before. Nobody's there. I mean, again, you probably find some dumb fuck on Twitter that's like, oh, that's part of the Rainbow Coalition or whatever, but they're probably saying it because they hate gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, and other basically non-cis straight identities and sexualities. Nobody's doing, I mean, again, you can't say nobody, but this isn't a thing that's happening in the gay community or in the Rainbow Coalition at large. This is a fucking trope we've been fighting against forever.
No,
MAP, which is the latest addition to this Rainbow Coalition, which means child abusers.
Yes.
I don't want to be lumped in.
No, nobody's doing. No, you're lying. You're disgusting, actually. Fuck you.
Kinksters, in other words, men that like strangling women during sex. That isn't an oppression. That is not a sexual identity that has any meaning. So as a lesbian, what I want to know is, how do we navigate our way through lives in a happy way, in a way that's positive for us? And how do we come out? What happens to us when we come out? What about our health issues that's distinct from gay men and other groups, without saying that we don't want those other groups to have their own research and have their own identity?
When we think about so the bigotry against, we'll just say gay men and gay women is essentially the same bigotry. That's why at the beginning it was lumped together. That's why homophobia, nobody would be like, oh, that's just about gay men. Even fucking 30 years ago, nobody was saying, well, homophobia is only about gay men. Like, everything she said is wrong. And also, she's a GMERF. She's like, I don't even want to be lumped in with gay men. Well, fuck you. I don't want to be lumped in with you either, but fucking them's the breaks. People fucking, groups happen whether or not you like it. You get grouped in with other people fucking all the time. Sorry, lady. You think I'm fucking ecstatic to be grouped in with you and fucking Martina Navratilova and Catherine Stock because I think all three of you are lesbians? No, you're fucking monsters. But I understand that, like, we do share a group identity in that we're same-sex attracted people. Like, and then the shit about minor attracted people, that fucking shit was used against gays and lesbians, mostly gay men actually, but gays and lesbians for a very long time. Now she's doing the work of the fucking people she claims to oppose for them. She's like, I don't like these people that don't like lesbians. Well, you're doing some of their work for them, lady, because there's fucking splash damage on your transphobia, and the splash damage is happening to other queer identities. So we have to go over the main thing that happened on Twitter this week. A lot of shit happened on Twitter this week, but this is the main thing that happened on Twitter this week. This is Brianna Joy Gray asking Bethany Mandel a simple question about one of the things that she's been sort of banging the war drum about for fucking ever. And it's interesting that in an environment where she might be asked a follow-up question, she got nothing.
Of Americans consider themselves very liberal, and probably fewer of them consider themselves to be woke. And so, when we talk about traditional,
what does that mean to you? Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke is something that's very hard to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it. It is sort of the understanding that we need to totally reimagine and redo society in order to create hierarchies of oppression. It's hard to explain in a 15-second soundbite.
Yeah, look, your time.
You can take your time. So this was good. Brianna Joy Gray hasn't been doing the best work lately, we could say, right? She's been wrong on a lot of stuff, pretty bad on a lot of stuff. And she did a good job here by just being like, well, what do you mean when you say that? Because that's fair enough to ask, because it's not like it's some technical term that people don't know or whatever. Her whole project has been around this idea of wokeness. And so that was good, but then fucking Brianna Joy Gray went out there and apologized essentially for it, saying, "Oh, I didn't mean it as a gotcha," and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Well, okay, thanks. You did. You finally did something good, and now you wish you hadn't, because maybe the right wing elements of the audience over there at Rising didn't like it. So, not all good things are actually good, and that was a case where it's not good. So up next is Charlie Kirk. He has a problem with the Senate, not the problem that you or I might have with the Senate, that it is a non-representative body that favors rural states without a big population center. Not that. He's got a different problem with the Senate.
The 17th Amendment is without a doubt one of the worst ideas that ever has become a constitutional amendment in history. I think it actually is the worst amendment to the United States Constitution. I don't think it's close. The 17th Amendment, which was ratified thanks to the progressive movement and Woodrow Wilson and all that nonsense in 1913, allowed voters to cast direct votes for U.S. senators. Now, this sounded like a very simple and good idea. This sounded like it was rational. Okay, the senators are now going to be directly responsive to voters, because the way it used to work was that state legislatures used to appoint the senator through a process, and they'd say, okay, here's who we like, and we'll appoint them. They also had the ability to recall them, though. So basically the senators, United States senators, the way the founding fathers designed the system, the senators had to go through a filter process. They had to go through a vetting process of the hyper-local way of government. Senators could not just autopilot to re-election if they betrayed their party and its priorities.
Voting bad. Like I said, my problem with the Senate is that Wyoming and California have the same number of senators, and that seems fucking crazy town to me. Like completely crazy town. Like more people live in like Los Angeles County than in like, I don't know, 6 or 7 states combined. It seems a little crazy town to me. Charlie's problem is that we're voting for them. Fucking Charlie, man. I got another Charlie Kirk clip here, because why just do one? In which Charlie Kirk, he ain't no hippie.
I am repulsed by how the Republican Party is in harmony with the Biden regime on this. The Democrat Party is now the party of war. The idea of the Democrats being against the Iraq war and foreign imperialism, the American Democrat Party is fully on board with what is going on in Ukraine. The $200 billion spent, the money laundering that's probably occurring, the weapons that are just flooding that entire region. The American Democrat Party used to have anti-war elements, and they have been eliminated. So now the voice of anti-war, not even anti-war, because that sounds really hippie. How about this?
I wouldn't want to sound like a hippie.
America lives in a portion of the Republican Party. It lives on programs like this, on War Room, on Tucker Carlson, and you, the voters, are overwhelmingly disgusted by what you are seeing. You see your own beloved country invaded. And then you see your leaders send money abroad to go secure other people's borders while yours 5,000 people a day pour into our country.
But that's not like a nuclear superpower, like dropping bombs on us. He just doesn't like immigration. He just doesn't like immigration. When he, and when he talks about immigration, he's probably fine with it if it's coming from Europe, right? Or even Russia, probably fine with it if it comes from Russia. I mean, I think people from all over the world should have the ability to immigrate to other countries. So I'm not mad at white people coming here, but he's mad at the non-whites coming here. And I think that's, racist. And we're not being invaded. We're just not. Up next, we got Great Husbands over at the Daily Wire. I couldn't fucking believe this. I thought this was fake. I thought this is going to be fake. But nope. Here's Husbands of the Year. Brian Kilmeade is giving these people a run for their money, if you remember the clip from earlier about the shoveling the snow and shit. But I think these Daily Wire people are going to probably outdo Brian Kilmeade here.
All right, Matt?
It's kind of a trick question because I hate them both equally. But I guess I would say I would rather do the dishes. But I'd prefer if she just did both of the things.
Michael, to you.
Dishes, it's no question. I'm not sure in our entire marriage if I've ever done a full load of laundry. So I think I have that one.
I like it. All right, Drew?
Well, this is a trick question because I have not done anything around the house for 40 years.
Whoa!
Completely useless. But it's clear that if I had to choose, it would have to be dishes because she was just out of town for a month and I actually called her up and said, how do you do laundry? So
these people, are you adults? Wait a minute, aren't these the people who are like, take responsibility for your life and fucking pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Motherfucker can't even throw some socks in the laundry to put on under them boots.
I think dishes is the only thing I know how to do.
All right, to the answers. Ben, you answered dishes. Mrs. Shapiro said, I'm not sure Ben knows how to do laundry, so I'll go with the dishes, which he does quite often, and she threw in a little thanks, hun. Matt, you answered, I hate them both, but dishes. Your wife said dishes, and she also threw in, he doesn't know how to do the laundry. Again, being thrown under the bus.
True.
Michael, you answered dishes. Your wife said neither, but if there was a gun to his head, he would choose dishes. And Drew, finally, you answered, I don't do anything but the dishes if I had to. And your wife put, again in all caps here, very forceful answer, since he doesn't know how to do laundry, as we learned when I was out of town for several weeks. I'm guessing it's the dishes.
Well, I wish one of their wives would have said, I'm filing for divorce. Like, yo, I knew how to do laundry when I was like 10 or 8 or some shit. Probably wasn't that good at it. Like, I probably ruined my clothes, but I knew how to do that shit when I was a kid. A lot of the time, about half the time when I was growing up, my mom was working. Half the time she wasn't. My mom didn't like work because people were mean to her because she was a woman who worked in technology in the 80s. So she was not treated very respectfully at work. And my dad made significantly, I'd say, a good amount of money. And so she wasn't always working. But after about 12 years old, it didn't matter whether or not she was working. She wasn't doing my fucking laundry. I knew how to do laundry. It was pretty easy, actually. Especially with modern equipment, doing your laundry is pretty easy. In fact, you don't even have to set a timer on a modern dishwasher or a modern dryer. It has like a humidity sensor in it and just stops when your clothes are dry. These people are idiots. They could also just be posturing, though, for their incredibly sexist audience. This could all be bullshit. And I hope it's bullshit. Although, I don't know. Anyway, here's Tiny Dancer Ben, mad at Germany.
Berlin's authorities took action after a female swimmer said she was prevented from attending one of the city's pools without covering her chest in December 2022. The woman then lodged a complaint with the city ombudsman at the Senate Department for Justice, Diversity, and Anti-Discrimination. The authorities agreed that the woman had been a victim of discrimination and said all visitors to Berlin's pools, including women and those who identify as non-binary, are now permitted to show their tits. It follows a similar incident at a Berlin water park in the summer of 2021. French woman Gabrielle Lebreton sought financial compensation from the city after security guards ordered her to leave the premise when she refused to cover up her breasts. She was with her 5-year-old son when the incident happened. That kid's going to grow up healthy and happy, I think. Speaking to German
healthier and happier than you, he's not going to be afraid of titties.
Newspaper Die Welt at the time about why she believed it was gender discrimination said, "For me, and I teach this to my son, there is no difference. For both men and women, the breast is a secondary sexual characteristic, but men have the freedom to remove their clothes when it is hot and women do not." No, actually. Men's chests are not considered generally a secondary sexual characteristic.
Oh, Ben.
Excited to see Germany really embracing full-on androgyny. Of course, that is not going to, it's not about androgyny. And teenage boys everywhere in Germany are very excited today. The patriarchy is, again, incredibly clever. Great job, everyone.
Yeah, I've always thought that women should be able to take off their shirts anywhere that men can. I've always thought that. I thought it was kind of stupid. But whatever. Ben is just, just doesn't like women. Doesn't like boobs, I guess. Here's Ben Shapiro talking about left-handedness and being trans. This ought to be something.
It should be noted, by the way, sometimes you'll hear people make the idiotic argument, this is like left-handedness. So for generations, people suppressed left-handedness in the population. They said, well, it's bad for kids to write with their left hand. And so people were taught to write with their right hand, right? And then that stigma went away. People started to write with their left hand. And over the course of 60 years, the population of left-handers in the United States went up by about 300%. The population of transgenderism in the American population is now increasing at tens of thousands of percent in certain centers of our nation's population. That has nothing to do with the natural movement of genetic drift. That has everything to do with social contagion and social contagion.
Or social acceptance, just like of left-handed people.
For which the left demands both parental and government green lighting. The best parents are the ones who pretend that they are okay with their kids pretending they're members of the opposite sex, for example. Those are the greatest parents.
I mean, none of this is pretend. Like, just the way they frame this is fucking bigoted. Just fucking leave them kids alone, Ben. I know, like, yeah, just leave them kids alone, Ben. So we have to skip ahead a little bit here. What I want from Matt Walsh is more, he's doing content about pudding. And I think he should do more pudding content. Here's Matt Walsh on pudding.
Now, as far as eating pudding with your fingers, most of the time, I would agree that's uncouth. But also, what else are you supposed to do if you don't have a spoon? And that's some of the detail. If you're going to have this whole report about how he eats pudding, then I think we need more details about why was he eating the pudding with a finger. What was there a spoon or some other utensil available on the flight? And if there wasn't, then what else are you supposed to do? I ask you this.
Yes. Aircraft, both private and commercial, famous for giving you pudding with no spoon.
You're in a situation where you have pudding, maybe someone hands you chocolate pudding. You ask for a spoon and they tell you we don't have a spoon. And you say, well, you at least have a fork. I can maybe make that work. They say we don't have a fork. What are you going to do in that situation? Are you going to not eat the pudding?
You might just hang on to the pudding for later.
Are you going to say to yourself, well, I have this delicious pudding here, I'm just not going to eat it? I mean, give me a break.
I'd be like, what kind of fucking bullshit airplane is this where you're giving me pudding and no spoon? That's what I would do. I'd be like, what the fuck is going on here?
And in a situation like that, you do what you have to do. You know what this tells me? This tells me that Ron DeSantis is a man who's not afraid to get his hands dirty, not afraid to do what needs to be done in the moment to get the job done. And that's what I like about him, is that he gets the job done, you work with what you have, and you make it happen. And that's what he did with this pudding. And so I see it as really a microcosm of what makes him an effective governor in the first place, I would argue.
Matt Walsh should just talk about pudding from now on. I would be a big Matt Walsh fan if all he did was say dumb shit about pudding on the airplane. I don't know. Don't eat the pudding. Be like, oh, can you give this to me later? So here's a clip from Michael Knowles that we very well could have run on our Thursday night Cults and the Satanic Panic stream, but I hadn't seen it and didn't include it on our Cults and the Satanic Panic stream. I think I got it from the Discord. Somebody put it in the Discord. He's going to call trans people demonic, and he's going to use a 19th century drawing of Baphomet as evidence. You know, as you do.
This is demonic stuff, really demonic stuff. And I made this point, I got in trouble with our publicists over at Media Matters because I said that the attacks on man's sexual nature and sexual difference and complementarity are demonic. And they are. They go back throughout all of history, throughout some of the earliest depictions of demons. Even one of the most prominent depictions of demons, it comes from an artist, Eliphas Levi, who is an occultist, who did a depiction of Baphomet. If you just think, what's a demon look like? You're probably thinking of this picture. And this picture is of a weird goat head with horns, and then one arm looks like a man's arm, and then one arm looks like a woman's arm, and it's got breasts, a female upper body, then a male lower body. And it's a trans depiction. It's a depiction of a man and a woman kind of blended together in this grotesque way. And what's written on the arms, 2 words, solve coagula, which means to break apart and to put back together. And this is a slogan that crops up frequently in the occult. Break everything down, put it back together in this really grotesque, weird, unnatural sort of way. It is no coincidence that these depictions
should have shown the picture.
In this highly, highly dangerous ideology.
I don't know. I was off. I was in another window for a second, but I don't think you showed the picture, and that you should have showed the picture. So we're up against it on time here. We're not going to get to everything on the docket, as we never do. But we're going to do 2 more here. One, here's your weekly check-in on old Beef and Benzos, Jordan Peterson. He's, kind of as he's been for a while. He's not doing so hot. Not doing so hot. And I got to say, he's usually a pretty snappy dresser, and I do not like what he's wearing here at all.
A panicked response to a hypothetical emergency can be far worse than the hypothetical emergency itself. And given what we all just did when the hypothetical COVID pandemic hypothetically emerged, we should give a real serious second thought to panicking and running off a cliff in the same manner.
I don't think any of that shit was hypothetical. I think it all happened. It didn't hypothetically happen. It wasn't a hypothetical pandemic. 1.1 million Americans died. Even if you don't like the response to it or whatever, that doesn't mean that the whole thing was hypothetical. You could disagree with the response and still believe that the pandemic was not hypothetical. And he said hypothetical twice. It's like he just learned that word, but I don't think he learned that word recently. I think he just fucking malfunctioned. So now here's Konstantin Kisin. In case anybody's unaware, he added a laugh track to his stand-up routine that he put on YouTube, and I have captured it for my soundboard. It's this laugh track specifically. I pulled it out. Sounds like a fucking 90s sitcom. So here's old Konstantin Kisin on why people don't like Beef and Benzos, Jordy Pete.
The Cliff Notes version is they hate him because he wants men to be better. And he has a positive message for men. The reason
start that shit at home.
He came out and he unapologetically wanted men to be better. He wanted everyone to be better. And that's one of the other reasons they didn't like him, of course. And I think the reason that Jordan Peterson came under attack is because not only was he trying to tell men and women, but particularly men to be better, he also embodied traditional masculine virtues.
No.
Lies.
Bad stats added that there at the end. I don't think like, and I'm not even a big fan, as you may know, of this idea of like this kind of hyper fucking masculine version of men that some of these people think they aspire to. But if we were to take what we believe the properties of that are and then try to apply them to Jordan Peterson, it wouldn't map on very well, except that he's rich and like it engages in abusive behavior online when people like disagree with him. But other than that, these kind of hyper masculine, this bullshit about hyper masculinity or whatever, it doesn't map. Dude's affect isn't what certain people would call traditionally masculine, and that's fine. That's not my problem with him at all. My problem is what the fuck comes out his mouth, right? Like, I don't care really how he says it. I care what the fuck comes out his mouth. And that's why people don't like him. It's because of what the fuck comes out his mouth. It isn't because he tried to tell men and boys to be better. It isn't because he's fucking some kind of masculine dude. It's because of what the fuck comes out his mouth and what he's written in his books. And that's why, and what he puts on Twitter. That's why people don't like him. It's because he's an asshole and he's a bigot. And most people, I think he can go fuck himself. And with that, that's the end of the podcast show. Live listeners, stick around. We're not going anywhere. Just going to change the color of the lights, change the content of my beverage, and we'll go into some red light stories. This week I have a story about a dude whose prayers took out the power grid in 2007. Bob Larson is still alive and hates leprechauns. We got Lynn Witzke's a flat earther now. We can check in on little Nikki Fuentes here. We got Biden's been replaced by a body double again. And then Michael Flynn went on Alex Jones' show. We'll play a couple clips of that, flying a little close to the TOS sun if we play too much of that. We got Q versus Q. We got Tim Pool on classical liberalism and trans folks, and then Tim Pool with a message to the Miami Police Department. And we got some good advice from a lawyer, and then we got Madison Starmoon is making medium to long form videos again, and this one is called This Is What We're Up Against, and it isn't about me. If you're listening to the podcast, you want the rest of this, patreon.com/echoplex. You get the entire audio and video capture of it. You can also just email me, echo@echoplexmedia.com. I'm not going to literally make you pay $5 to get that. I'll just send it to you. It was Boomers by Periscope, and I'll see everybody on the flip side for Red Light.
You recall it If you like what we're doing at Echoplex and aren't into Twitch, please join our Patreon at patreon.com/Echoplex. For $5, you can get every show from beginning to end sent to you as an MP3, even the stuff we bleep out because it's too spicy for Twitch. Echoplex would not be where we are today if it wasn't for the community support we receive. Find out all the ways you can support the show at echoplexmedia.com/support.